Don't skip it because the interesting part is waiting for you at the end. Comment your thoughts below and subscribe to the channel. Like, if you like listening to horror stories.
Rain battered the cracked windows of our old Victorian house in Ravens Hollow, a forgotten coastal town in Maine where the fog never seemed to lift. I was 16, shivering in the backyard, my sneakers sinking into the muddy earth. Inside, my dad, Michael, was yelling again, his voice a jagged blade cutting through the storm. Mom, Sarah, was sobbing, her words drowned by his rage. This wasn't the dad I knew, the man who used to hum sea shanties while flipping pancakes on Sunday mornings. That man was gone, swallowed by something darker, something that crept into our lives when our family's lobster shack, the Salty Claw, started bleeding money. I hugged my knees, the cold seeping into my bones, and tried to block out their voices. The air felt heavy, like it was holding its breath, waiting for something to break. My name's Ellie, by the way. I'm not sure why I'm telling you this, maybe because I need someone to believe me. Because what happened in Ravens Hollow wasn't just a family falling apart, it was something else. Something ancient. Something that lived in the whispers of the tide. The fall of the Salty Claw. 2 years ago, when I was 14, the Salty Claw was the heart of Ravens Hollow. Locals packed the wooden booths, laughing over steaming lobster rolls, while Dad worked the grill with a grin that lit up the room. Mom ran the front, her auburn hair tied back, her laughter as warm as the summer sun. I bussed tables, sneaking fries, and dreaming of the day I'd escape this sleepy town for a life in Boston or New York. But then the tourists stopped coming. The fishing boats returned empty. The shack's neon sign flickered and died, and so did Dad's smile. Bills piled up like driftwood, and every night I'd hear him pacing the creaky floors, muttering to himself. Mom and I tried everything, new recipes, flyers, even a desperate social media page I set up. Nothing worked. Dad started drinking, his eyes hollow, his temper a storm waiting to break. I'd catch Mom staring out at the ocean, her face tight with worry. "He's just stressed, Ellie," she'd say, forcing a smile. But I saw the fear in her eyes. We both did. Dad was slipping away, and we didn't know how to pull him back. Then one foggy night, I overheard Dad talking to his old fishing buddy Amos in the shack's back room. Amos was a wiry man with eyes like polished obsidian, always smelling of salt and tobacco. "I know a way, Mike," he said, his voice low, like he was sharing a secret the ocean itself didn't want heard. "It's old. Older than this town. It'll fix everything." "What is it?" Dad asked, his voice desperate, hungry. Amos chuckled, a sound that made my skin crawl. "The Tide Whisperer. It listens, it grants. But you gotta give it something in return." I pressed my ear to the door, heart pounding. The Tide Whisperer. It sounded like one of those ghost stories kids told at bonfires. Tales of drowned sailors and cursed relics. But Dad was listening, hanging on Amos's every word. I wanted to burst in to tell him to stop, but my feet felt rooted to the floor. After that night, Dad changed. He started disappearing for hours, coming home with seaweed tangled in his hair and a strange, feverish glint in his eyes. He'd mutter about offerings and promises, his hands trembling as he clutched a small, barnacle-crusted idol he'd brought back from one of his trips. It was a grotesque thing, carved from driftwood, with hollow eyes and a mouth that seemed to smirk. He called it the Tide Whisperer. The first blessing. The idol sat on a shelf in the living room, its presence like a shadow that grew darker each day. Dad would kneel before it, whispering prayers I couldn't understand, his voice a mix of reverence and desperation. "Tide Whisperer, please," he'd beg. "Grant me your favor again." Mom hated it. She'd cross herself whenever she passed it, her lips pressed tight. "It's not right, Michael," she'd say. "This isn't you." But Dad wouldn't listen, and then one day it happened. The Salty Claw was packed again. Tourists flooded in, their wallets open, their laughter loud. The boats came back heavy with lobster. Dad was grinning, flipping burgers like nothing had ever gone wrong. Mom and I exchanged wary glances, but we didn't dare question it. The money was flowing, the bills were paid, and for a moment it felt like we had our old life back. But I couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching us. At night I'd hear whispers, not Dad's voice, but something else, like the ocean itself was murmuring through the walls. I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, my heart racing. The idol's hollow eyes seemed to follow me even in the dark. One night I crept downstairs and found Dad kneeling before the idol, his hands clasped so tightly his knuckles were white. But he wasn't Dad anymore. His skin shimmered, almost translucent, like he was made of moonlight. His eyes were too wide, too bright, and when he turned to me, he smiled, a smile that wasn't his. "Ellie," he said, his voice soft, musical, like a lullaby sung by the sea. "I'm a siren now. Mom's a coral queen, and you're a pearl shining in the deep." I froze, my breath caught in my throat. He stood, his movements fluid, almost weightless, and reached for my hand. "Dance with me," he said. And somehow I did. We spun through the living room, Mom joining us, her face dazed but smiling. The air was thick with the scent of salt and kelp, and for a moment I felt it, joy wild and untamed, like we were part of something bigger, something ancient. But when I woke the next morning, Dad was sprawled on the couch, snoring like a beached whale. The idol was gone, and so was the strange magic of the night before. "It left," Dad mumbled when I asked her, "but it'll be back." The second blessing. The shack thrived for months, but the whispers never stopped. Dad's devotion to the Tide Whisperer grew, his prayers louder, more fervent. He'd light candles around the idol, their flames flickering like they were underwater. Mom's fear turned to despair. She'd cry when she thought I wasn't listening, her sobs echoing through the house. "He loves that thing more than us," she whispered to me once, her voice breaking. I wanted to hate Dad, but I couldn't. I saw the pain in his eyes, the way he clung to the idol like it was his only lifeline. I started sneaking out at night, following him to the cliffs where he'd stand, staring at the ocean, the idol clutched to his chest. The waves would crash below, and sometimes I swore I saw shapes moving in the foam, shadows that weren't human. One stormy night, I hid behind a boulder and watched as Dad raised the idol to the sky, his voice a wail. "Tide Whisperer, please, grant me your favor again." The air crackled and Dad changed. His body hunched, his limbs lengthening, his skin turning rough and gray like shark skin. He turned to me, his eyes glowing yellow, and growled, "I'm a wolf of the deep. Mom's a reef guardian. and you're a minnow darting through the currents. I should have run, but I didn't. He grabbed my hands and we danced again, the rain soaking us, the wind howling. Mom was there too, her eyes wide with terror, but her feet moving to some unseen rhythm. The ocean roared, and I felt it, the pull of something vast, something that wanted us, needed us. When I woke, Dad was himself again, slumped on the couch, the idol back on its shelf. But something was different. His hands were rougher, his eyes darker. And Mom, she looked at him like he was a stranger. The final descent. The shack closed a month later. The tourists vanished, the boats empty again. Dad didn't care. He was consumed, his every moment spent with the idol. He'd stopped hiding it, setting it on the kitchen table, its hollow eyes watching us eat. Mom stopped crying. She just faded, her smiles gone, her voice quiet. I couldn't stand the house anymore. It felt alive, the walls creaking, the air thick with the smell of brine. I'd hear footsteps at night, not Dad's, not Mom's, but something else pacing the halls. I'd see shadows in the corners, shapes that vanished when I turned on the light. One night I followed Dad to the cliffs again. The storm was worse than ever, the waves crashing like they wanted to swallow the town. He stood at the edge, the idol raised high, his voice a scream. Tide Whisperer, please, grant me your favor one last time. The sky split open, lightning illuminating his chest. No, not his chest. His skin was gone, his body a skeletal frame of bone and sinew, his eyes glowing like bioluminescent algae. He turned to me, his voice a hiss. I'm a leviathan, Mom's a siren of the abyss, and you're a ghost lost in the deep. I screamed, backing away, but he grabbed me, his touch cold as the ocean floor. We danced, Mom's face blank, her body moving like a puppet. The idol was there, floating above us, its smirk wider, its eyes alive. I felt it then. The Tide Whisperer wasn't just a statue. It was in Dad, in the house, in the town. It was everywhere. I don't remember how I got home. I woke in my bed, my arm throbbing. When I looked, it was bandaged, blood seeping through. Dad was gone. Mom wouldn't look at me. The idol sat on my nightstand, its eyes locked on mine. The truth. I'm 18 now, writing this from a motel in Portland. I left Raven's Hollow a year ago, but I still feel it. The pull of the tide, the whisper of the sea. Mom's in a facility, her mind fractured, her words just fragments of songs about the ocean. Dad, or whatever he became, is gone. The house is empty, boarded up, but I know the idol's still there waiting. I've spent months researching, digging through old town records, sailors' logs, anything I could find. The Tide Whisperer isn't just a story, it's a force, older than the rocks, hungrier than the sea. It grants wishes, but it takes more than it gives. It took Dad's soul, Mom's sanity, and part of me. My arm, my peace, my belief that the world makes sense. I keep dreaming of that last dance, the idol's eyes burning into mine. I see Dad not as a man, but as the sea itself, endless and cruel. I hear his voice begging for one more blessing, and sometimes in the quiet I hear it answer. I'm going back to Raven's Hollow tomorrow. I don't know why. Maybe to find the idol, to destroy it, or maybe because it's calling me. If you're reading this, if you ever visit that cursed town, listen to the waves. If they whisper your name, run. Don't look back. Don't dance. Because the Tide Whisperer is still out there and it's hungry.